I'm Jody Hand, Mrs. Hand Painted, and thanks for checking out my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'll be going over a tutorial on how to do a watercolor postcard landscape of a fantasy beach scene. It's kind of an abstract painting watercolor landscape. And you can purchase the kit that has the colors of paint in my Etsy shop. I have a handmade watercolor sample pans in here that you can get all 5 colors that are in the painting. There's 2 Etchr Lab watercolor postcards in here that are 100% cotton. You'll get a roll of washi tape and the chipboard to tape your paper down to. And there's also full color instructions included in here, and you can purchase that in my Etsy shop, and the link to that is below in the description of the video. Of course, if you don't have the kit, you can paint along with what other colors you have in your collection, but I just wanted to let you know that is available, and it has everything you need in there except for the paintbrushes. So if you are interested in purchasing the paintbrushes that I'm using in the video today, I do have a kit together also that I put together some beginner watercolor supplies that includes paper, paintbrushes, washi tape, and it's all in one little kit that you can get. And there's a product description information as well, so you can learn about the different products. They're really great beginner supplies, or if you're just looking for some inexpensive watercolor supplies just to add to your collection, it's a really great sampler kit that I put together for you, and there's a link to that also in the description of the video. So happy painting, and let's paint a little fantasy abstract watercolor beach scene.
Alright, so I'm just going to dive right in here. I have got the supplies that you have gotten in the kit if you purchase the kit with my Fantasea samples of watercolor from my Etsy shop. I got that right there. I'm just going to be going ahead and using my set of the colors though. If you purchase the kit, you'll get a mini sample of all of the colors. They're little tiny pans, but there's more than enough in there to do these 2 postcards in the kit, or to use it again and again for several more little paintings afterwards. So that's a really good, nice, generous sample for you to really test out the paints and see what you want to create. So just leave those there. And then this was my test postcard I did on a cheaper postcard, and here's swatches of all the colors: jellyfish, sea glass, coral reef, sand dune, and it's actually called treasure, not pirate treasure. I took the pirate off of there. I've got 2 water jars, one for washing the paint out of my brush and one for getting clean water. And I've got a little palette if you want to have a little paint palette. You can get little plastic ones for very inexpensive at hobby stores. Even the dollar store has little plastic palettes. I'm using a ceramic palette that I had custom made for me, but if you were looking for something at maybe a thrift shop, you can also find little ceramic plates or egg cup dishes. The deviled egg dishes are really great for paint palettes. I have, what you'll find in your kit is just a small piece of chipboard, size 5x7, and then the 2 postcards that you can do. So one to practice and one to do your final piece on, if that's how you want to do it, but there's an extra one in there in case you want to do it again. And then I've got brushes, and I'm just going to go ahead and use these kind of beginner brushes that I have available in my shop as a kit. If you want to purchase a beginner watercolor kit that just has some paper samples to try out and the 4-pack of brushes. So I'm going to be using the middle round size, which is the size 6 for this. And then over here I've just got something to dry my brush up with. This is a brush cloth. And I'll link to her arts and crafts Etsy and where I purchased these from. And she's got so many great brush cloths, so you can save on paper towels and just throw these in the wash when you're done and they've gotten paint all over them, and reuse them. So great way to save on paper towel waste. The other thing in your kit then is washi tape. As you can see, I did start taping that down, and I'm going to go ahead and finish that. And if you want to just pause the video while you tape yours down, I'm just going to speed on through this. So. Seriously. Okay, so tape down on all 4 sides just to hold your paper down, and you're not going to remove the tape until your paint is completely dry. And the reason that we do that with watercolor is because otherwise your paper will start to curl, or you'll get wavy paper buckles in it as it dries, and it just gives you a nice flat surface, and it gives you a nice little white border around the edge as well. And feel free to do whatever kind of thickness. I just kind of eyeballed it to try to get it even. It's just a simple little thing just to practice. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure I have a clean brush, and then I'm going to get clean water, and I'm going to wet my entire paper. And I want to try to avoid getting puddles across my paper. So you can kind of hold your paper at an angle in the light and see if there's any areas that look like they have droplets that are very big, or just any areas that the water needs to be spread out. So try to get a nice even coat, and then you can see the shine on your paper to check for your even wetness. See here, I've got a little area I didn't quite get as much, so I'm just going to go back over that. And then these, you don't want to rub too much on the paper. Don't get too heavy-handed. Try to do a nice light stroke so that you don't damage the paper. These Etchr postcards are not as thick as some of the watercolor paper you'll use. I believe these are only 110 pound, and a lot of watercolor paper is 140 pound. So it's a little bit thinner, and you just want to be careful that you don't rub on it too much, because it might start to pill up on you a little bit. So try to do a light touch with this. And this one, we're just going to try to do it really, really quickly and very loose style. It's going to be kind of an abstract landscape. I'm going to work my way from the bottom up so that I make sure that I have enough space for my beach. So I'm going to use the sand dune color. And if you do have a little plate or a little palette and you want to mix some up, you can go ahead, get clean water, mix that up, and then rinse your brush. And then before you go to another color, get clean water on your brush again, and then dip into the next color. So I'm going to go ahead and just get a bunch of this sand dune color ready to go. Just a little puddle. And I'm going to kind of go across at an angle. I'm just going to just paint in at a stroke going across at an angle. And just kind of fill that in evenly. And we'll be going back over this after this dries. This is just our base wash. We're going to build up those background colors. Go ahead and rinse your brush off, and then get clean water again. And we'll switch to the next color, which is the sea glass color. And usually I have these in a little tray or something. I'm not usually holding them like this, but didn't have that set up yet. So. Alright, so we're just going to continue on moving up, and it's alright for that to bleed in, because when they were doing wet and wet, everything kind of bleeds. And then I'm going to pick where my horizon line is going to be and just try to go straight across. I'm just going to fill this in, very light wash. So again, very light touch. Don't rub very hard. Alright, rinse my brush off. And now we're going to build up the pink and the purple for the sunset. I just like making lots of noise when I'm recording a video. You're like slamming the door behind you. Done tromping around? So I can continue? Okay. Alright, we're going to move on to the coral reef color, that pink, and I'm just going to lay in a thin stripe of that. Do the same thing, rinse, get clean water, and then I'm going to get the jellyfish color, the purple, and then do a stripe of that. And then you want to go ahead and go back to your sea glass color and just do a tiny bit at the top. Alright. At this point we're going to let this all dry, and then we're going to build up layers on top of it. If you want to speed things along with your drying, you can get a hair dryer or a heat tool, like for stamping. I have a Ranger heated craft tool that I use. I just always had this from scrapbooking, so I just use it with this too. And it is still just a tiny bit damp, but that's okay because I'm going to be building some layers up over the top. And here we're going to be doing just some really loose strokes to kind of just build up a second layer over top of this. I'm going to go back to my sand dune, get that, and I don't want to have too much water on my brush, so you can kind of just along the edge of your plate or your palette just kind of get some of the excess off, and if you want to, you can just dab it on your paper towel, get some of the extra water off. Alright, so I'm just gonna kind of do some strokes here just to create kind of a little texture on my beach. And just go back and forth and leave some of the lighter wash peeking through. Now I'm gonna rinse. I'm gonna go back over my blue in the same manner and just kind of do some quick strokes across, back and forth, just to give that another layer. And then we'll do the same with our pink, the coral reef. And I'll just kind of blend that in with the purple and kind of let some of that mix together a little bit maybe. I'm going to add a little bit more of the blue and get a little bit less water on my brush just so I want to get a darker shade in there. Just going to have that kind of blend into the edge of your beach. Alright, now in my original I added a bunch of gold, the treasure, in here. So this one, with mica paints, you'll want to add a little bit of water just to kind of activate them a little bit, and then almost like stir it around with your brush just a little bit to get the paint activated. Micas are just a little bit different than regular watercolors. Alright, so I've got a good amount of that gold on my brush, and while this is still wet, I'm just going to kind of go in strokes along my horizon line, and that'll kind of take the place of what like yellow would be, and kind of make that look orange right along the edge. Maybe put some in the water like it would be sunlight reflecting. And then we'll just go along the edge of the beach here. And feel free to just dip in some gold wherever you feel like it would look nice. And if you feel like you've got your colors a little bit too dark, you can always just rinse your brush off, get clean water, and just kind of take off some of that excess water, and you can just dab your brush down in there and lift off, and then just wipe on your paper towel or your cloth, and that will lift up some of the extra pigment. Like I had that pink just a little dark for my liking, but I'm able to lift that off while it's still wet. Alright, I do feel like I have my beach line just a little hard, and I want to make that a little more jagged, so I might just go back in with a little bit of this tan, just add a little bit more of the sand in there, and a little bit more of the blue up here, just to kind of change that angle a little bit. And got a little more gold. Alright, and I don't want to go too much on this because then I'll start getting it really muddied up. I'm pretty happy with how that is turning out. So there's a fun little abstract landscape that you can try out, and just try different variations on it if you want to incorporate some other colors that you might have in your collection. But otherwise, those 5 colors together make a really pretty abstract sunset beachy landscape. And again, the kit is available in my Etsy shop, and it will include the mini samples and 2 Etchr Lab postcards, as well as a roll of washi tape. And you will also get the full color instructions with step-by-step pictures and steps that you can follow along with that as well. So thanks for checking it out, and as always, happy painting, everybody! I'm just going to show you how we remove the tape here, and I want to make sure this is completely dry. And actually, this is where having a heat tool will actually come in handy, or if you have a warm hair dryer, because it will help loosen the tape a little bit. So we can go ahead and dry it, and then we'll peel up the tape very slowly. Alright, now the trick to peeling up this tape is to go at a really sharp angle. So I like to hold my paper with one hand and then I pull at a sharp angle like this so that I don't rip my paper. It may catch on your chipboard a little bit, but that doesn't really matter. We just don't want the paper to be ripped. I'm just going to slowly work my way around and pull at a sharp angle instead of going straight up, because that will pull at the paper and rip it. But washi tape in general is very low tack. You can also use painter's tape just fine. Alright, and look at that nice crisp edge. You can see that subtle shimmer to it.